I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. F*** it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Things.
Here we go, kiddos. Another edition of the Daily Puck Drop. It is Tuesday, January 20th. We appreciate you checking into the show, whether you're watching on YouTube or X or listening on the Puck Sports mobile app live. You can download it to your iOS or from the iOS store or Google Play for you Android users. Of course, you can watch and listen to the show later up on YouTube and all podcast platforms like Apple and Spotify. Well, we got to talk about the Indiana victory last night over Miami. They shine down there in the Orange State. We'll get a Seahawks injury report. It's not good with Zach Charbonnet. We'll go into the numbers on that one, how this loss is not getting enough attention. And everyone's just reacting, well, you'll just give Ken Walker the ball more. Danny Kelly is here from The Ringer to talk all things NFL. Gasman will be here as well. We'll check in with Mike Gastineau. We checked in with him earlier this morning, so we'll play that about 10 or 15 minutes coming up a little bit later in the program. We had to let him sober up before we could actually talk to him on the show today. But, of course, a huge IU fan and alum celebrating the Hoosiers' first national championship there in football. We'll cover it all on Tuesday's edition of the Daily Puck Drop, including Hey, What the Puck. All right, we broadcast every single day from inside the Limbach Lumber Studios. Contractors, they offer free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects, largest stock moldings in the Northwest. Old school service because they've been doing it since 1930. Give them a call, 206-782-3487. Visit them at limbachlumber.com. You can visit me on social media. You should know it by now. Puck Sports everywhere except for TikTok. It's Puck_sports. Also, visit pucksports.com. You can sign up to become a Puck's Posse member. It's just $5 a month. It supports everything we do daily, which is free, by the way. Plus, we give you bonus shows throughout the week. We'll have another episode of the Sports Pit with Matt Stretch Johnson coming out later today. Tomorrow, Inside Pitch with Ryan Divish. It's actually a big day in baseball today. We'll get to it in just a quick second. And Thursdays with Mitchie the Kid. That's right. It is a big day in baseball, and it will be, we'll get it down in our rundown, but they will announce the Baseball Hall of Fame today. And again, Felix Hernandez is not going to get into the Hall of Fame, but boy, is he trending in the right direction. We'll get to that in just a second. Reminder, Danny Kelly's going to join us here in about 7 minutes or so. Indiana claiming the national championship last night. It was a great game. It was physical. There was big plays everywhere. I thought the referees really allowed it. There's a difference between letting them play and then not calling anything. And last night, I mean, Indiana is lucky in a way that they won because of the amount of stuff that they let Miami get away with in that game last night. The holding, they held their wide receivers on every single play in that game last night. They also held on every single offensive play, every one of them. You go back and look at the long touchdown run by Fletcher, holding. There was like 3 holds on that. How about there wasn't 1, 2, there was 3 cheap shots on Mendoza. First one was a late hit. He had clearly thrown the ball, and it was like 2 steps after they hit him. There was another hit, which you've seen, where they hit him under the chin. And that is not, he's defenseless. He's not a running back. The guy lowered the crown of his helmet and hit him in the chin. And then there was another one that didn't get a lot of play where he threw the ball. He was hit up high, and then a guy goes low at his knees. There was a clear message by Miami last night to go after him nonstop. And I thought it was dirty, actually. That was dirty what Miami was doing to Mendoza. And then they called the roughing the passer penalty late in the game to extend Miami's drive, which was terrible. That was a terrible call. It was a real interesting kind of officiated game last night in Miami. But whatever, in the end, Indiana wins. Why did Indiana win? Well, they're the more complete team than Miami. They've got a better quarterback than Miami, and they just are physically sound. I mean, that was the thing, and so is Miami, by the way. If you like old school football, like how the game used to be played with just physicality, I know you just ranted about how you were taking shots at Miami for the late hits, but there's a difference between physical football and late dirty hits. but the physicalness of that game, the running backs of Indiana who just are looking for contact, the offensive linemen for both teams, the interior defensive line for Miami, the two guys on the edge, the Bain guy is just a monster. Fletcher's a monster. It was just a throwback of some old school football. And Indiana, in a way, is lucky that game didn't get extended. Had that game gone, potentially to overtime, like if they hadn't made the field goal at the end, I think Miami probably wins it in the end. I just think Indiana was probably running out of gas a little bit. This is where talent, when you have more like 5-star and 4-star talent on your side, your depth is a little bit better. And they were wearing them down. They clearly were outplaying them in the second half. But what a turnaround for Indiana. You're going to hear Gasman talk about it later in the show. It's one of the most remarkable stories that we've ever seen in sports. For a team that a couple of years ago you knew nothing about, and Curt Cignetti, if you followed college football closely, maybe you knew something about him. Guy that every level, every division he's been at has won. He brings a bunch of recruits and transfers from JMU. You have no idea who James Madison is. You're like, they play football? And they win last year. It's not a fluke. And then they follow that up with an undefeated perfect season. I just think it's one of the greatest things we've ever seen in sports. I just don't think there's a comp. Everyone keeps thinking of a comp with it. I don't think there is one. I can't think of anything that is in any way, shape, or form like what Indiana just accomplished. They marry the best and the worst, really, of college football. The best being, hey, we're going to find guys in high school in the transfer portal, guys that are overlooked, 2-star, 3-star guys, and develop them and coach them up. And then the worst of it is we can buy and pay players, and they have got the balance of both with their NIL funding and certainly with Mark Cuban getting involved here late. It's fun to watch them play. They are sound. Curt Cignetti, they could have a camera on Cignetti the entire game. So I could just watch his facial expressions. We'll have more on that one coming up later in the show with the Gasman. Over to the injury front on the Seahawks. Let's get to the I guess kind of good. Sounds like Charles Cross will be okay. He's been listed as day-to-day with his injury. Now the bad is Zach Charbonnet. And I think this is bad, and maybe people are. It's only Tuesday, so it hasn't quite set in yet. This is not good at all. And maybe you're saying, well, thanks, Tips. But honestly, this is not good. Zach Charbonnet was a starter. This wasn't like Ken Walker is the starting running back and then there's Zach Charbonnet. These were co-starters. You've just lost. So I think it's safe to say you just lost your starting running back. Now, it's a great fallback plan to have Ken Walker, and I agree with those. Who would you rather lose? We play that game. That's a fun game to play with one of your favorite team. Who would you rather lose? Well, yeah, I think I would rather lose Zach Charbonnet. Passing game suffers because he's a threat in the passing game, but where the passing game really suffers without Zach Charbonnet is the pass blocking. He's just excellent at it. He's so smart. He's physically sound. It's why he's in there in the 2-minute situations. It's why he's in there on passing situations. Obviously, the running game is going to suffer. He had 12 touchdowns on the season. He had nearly 800 yards rushing. It's going to affect really now Seattle's decision in the running back room for the next year. Maybe they thought they weren't going to give a contract to Ken Walker. Well, they have to give a contract now to Ken Walker. They have to. I mean, he's got an ACL tear, so he's going to miss majority of the season next year, if not almost all of it. And you need Ken Walker back. Here's where here's the problem for Seattle. The last 4 games of the season, what has been the biggest turnaround offensively for them? Running the ball, right? In the last 4 games of the season, including the playoffs, they've had 690 yards. They've averaged 173 yards on the ground. Not just all Ken Walker. These are the splits for the carries in the last few games. And you almost want to throw the divisional round game out because Charbonnet goes out. But that split was 19-5, Ken Walker to Charbonnet. In the regular season finale, Charbonnet had 17 carries compared to Walker 16. In the Carolina game, it was the advantage going to Charbonnet. In the Rams game, it was Walker 11 carries to Charbonnet's 9 carries. I said it's advantage to Walker because I can't read my own freaking writing of what I wrote down. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. Can you not relate to not being able to read your own writing? So I'm going to double check it one more time to see what the discrepancy was between the two. Yeah, and I got it right. I can't read 18. Charbonnet had 18 carries in that Carolina game compared to 15 for Ken Walker. If you go back to the Rams Thursday night game, Ken Walker had 11 carries to Charbonnet's 9. In the Colts game, it was 9-8 in favor of Walker. Atlanta was 10-7 in favor of Walker. Minnesota was 14-13 in favor of Charbonnet. You get the drift here. These guys aren't, it's not 1 and 2. They are co-starting running backs. It's a big loss for Seattle. We'll see what they're going to do with that running back room. We talked to Dugar about it yesterday. Jones Jr. is the option. He was the third guy last week. You also have Cam Akers on the practice squad. George Holani and Mike McDonald confirmed it, can start that return to practice. So maybe George Holani is an option there for Seattle. Let's get more on the Seahawks and more on the NFL playoffs and championship weekend. We talk NFL with our next guest, Danny Kelly from The Ringer, all brought to you by our NFL coverage, Georgetown Brewery.
Drink Georgetown Tavern Beer, your new locally brewed domestic-style lager. 4.2% alcohol. Cheap, good, local.
That always describes Danny Kelly, and Danny Kelly's going to have to walk me off the ledge right now, and I know he can.
Yeah,
I got my panties are in a bunch on this Charbonnet injury. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. I don't like what happened. I don't like the timing of it at all.
It's not ideal, certainly. I think in the big scheme of things, if you're going to lose a starting player, the co-starting running back is probably low on the list. So you can take that. That is the grain of salt or whatever. The silver lining here is that, like, in terms of the overall impact on the offense, I think losing a running back is probably as minimal as you can hope. It's certainly worse. It's certainly better than like a starting receiver or starting offensive lineman. So, you know, like you said, it is going to make an impact. They are the 1-2 punch that they've established. And I think just the physicality that he brings, especially on those high leverage downs, third downs, fourth downs in the red zone, you really trust him on a lot of those situations. And so I think that's going to be a loss, but this is kind of just how it goes in the NFL. Next man up. I think Holani, if he can get out there, I feel pretty confident in him. He's a good player. He's, you know, got some experience. Felix Jones Jr., I think he probably won't get a ton of touches, but he has some juice as a runner. I certainly think that he can kind of bring that type of thing to it. And I think there's things that they will and can do where they're putting like Shaheed in the backfield, things like that. You know, they have options that they can kind of like get by with, but yeah, this sucks. He was a huge part of their offense. I think he led the team in touchdowns or rushing touchdowns, and he's just a really, really rock solid, dependable player.
Yeah, he's solid. Our Danny's with us, of course, from the Ringer, senior staff writer, Ringer Fantasy Football Show, Ringer NFL Draft Show. And of course, you can watch it everywhere. You listen to it on Spotify, watch on YouTube, watch it also on Netflix. And if you're watching now, he's got the Netflix 4K cam on, I believe.
I do.
Yeah, you're damn right you do. God, I love it.
I will not apologize for you get to see me in 4K now in all my glory.
You're so much better looking in 4K. It's amazing how much 4K has boosted you up.
Going back like a year, if you look at some of our video setups, my God, we've
looks like analog or something. Yeah.
Like dark room.
You guys
really
are great.
Cameras.
For people who don't know, just tell everyone, you guys are on Netflix now. If you guys want to watch, you can watch Danny and all the Ringer crew now on Netflix.
So
it's awesome.
The background is Netflix has licensed our show, along with, you know, I think secondarily Bill Simmons and secondarily some of these other big shows that the Ringer has, but mainly us. They were really really interested in Ringer Fantasy Football Show. So yeah, it's very cool. It's very surreal to like log on to Netflix and see your face on there, because it does feel like they're just pushing it to people. It's not just like
they are,
which I kind of love.
Yeah.
So I'm getting some great shouts from people saying they see my face on their Netflix. That's pretty fun.
Which one of your co-hosts is the Bears fan? Do you have a Bears fan? One of them?
No, we have no Bears fans. We got
okay.
Heifetz is a Giants fan, unfortunately for him.
That's right. That's right.
And then Craig is a Steelers fan.
Okay. God, I thought for some reason one of them was a Bears fan. But
Robert Mays, former Ringer employee, one of my good friends, is a Bears fan. So maybe you're thinking of him.
I was hoping for the Bears to pull that off so we didn't have to see the Rams, but it felt inevitable that we would see the Rams in this game, right?
Yeah. It's felt inevitable for the past 3 months, basically, since I think once we figured out the Seahawks are actually pretty good, this is a legit team. I think it's kind of been in the back of our minds that we're going to meet the Rams in the playoffs, and it's going to be really stressful and a high anxiety game. You've been rooting for this. I mean, you can go back to
I'm a sick person.
Week 16, week 17. You're talking about you want this. You want
I do, and I know how stupid it sounds, and I know, and I just hear me out, and then I'll shut up.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I understand the easiest path would have been for the Bears to play in it. All right. I'm not an idiot.
Right.
I mean, I'm dumb, but I'm not an idiot. Okay. But there's we all love sports, right? I love sports. Love it to my core. It's why we do what we do.
Right.
I love watching it, participating it, coaching it, just all of it. I live for it. It's so much fun. And these games,
This is why we get up in the morning, right?
Yeah, this is the best on the best. These are the two best teams in the NFL. And we're going to get to a stat that you've referenced all year long. You've talked about it, the DVOA. And for people who don't understand, we'll get to it. And we'll explain why this is a historic game coming up on Sunday.
Yeah.
These are the two best teams in the sport. To me, as someone who likes to watch it, I'm in. And I know what happens. I know they have there's a high probability that the Seahawks lose. But
if you look at the two games they played this year, it's I think there's 2 or 3 yards separate the two teams. 1 point separates the two teams, or whatever it is. I'll reference a meme that kind of goes around on Instagram and Twitter and stuff. It's I kind of forgot this is the whole point. This is the whole point. This is what we're going for. This is what we should be rooting for. The two best teams in the NFL. Very much reminds me of the 49ers Seahawks NFC Championship game from 2013, the one that sent the Seahawks to the Super Bowl, where, this is putting the cart before the horse, but if they go to the Super Bowl, the Seahawks go to the Super Bowl and win, we'll still probably be talking about this as the real Super Bowl, kind of the way that we talked about that 49ers win being the real Super Bowl. This is the hardest team. I think that this is this is the big bad in terms of the narrative, in terms of the history for the Seahawks. Going back to even when the Rams were one of the worst teams in the NFL when they're in St. Louis, they always gave the Seahawks trouble. I always hated playing the Rams, even going back to the early 2000s. It's just they for some reason these two teams hate each other. They always get up and fight every game despite how good they are.
This has always been the thorn in their side. It's not been the Niners.
I hate the Niners more. But the Rams are more intimidating, if that makes sense. The Rams frighten me more in terms of just for whatever reason, man. They just always seem to play us really well, play the Seahawks really well.
They've knocked you off the two times you've played them here. They beat you. You remember the 2004? It's the year before the Super Bowl, right? They lose in the divisional round. Bobby Ingram drops the pass over the middle. Drops a pass over the middle from Hasselbeck. He's wide open, drops it. They lose.
Yeah.
And then a few years ago during COVID, they lose with no fans in the stadium. So they've come in here twice. I mean, it's different teams and all that, but
I think, teams change over the years. The Seahawks are a totally different team. Pretty much every piece of the team is different now.
Everything.
But that being said, I mean, the two fan bases have history. The two teams have history. Just feels like they have a DNA that this is always going to be a tough, hard fought battle. It's just going to be a lot of fun. I mean, what you referenced, the DVOA thing, these are two of the best teams in DVOA history, not just this year. These are both two top 10 teams, according to their efficiency, scoring the football and overall just defense, both sides of the football. The DVOA takes into account efficiency, all that stuff.
So let's I want you to explain that to people, because we've talked about DVOA all year long, but I know there's someone that's watching or listening right now. They're I don't know what that is. I need the smart one. That's Danny.
Yeah.
I need the smart one, Danny Kelly, to explain what DVOA is.
It's a complicated statistic. It utilizes expected points added. So basically, what you need to know is it looks at every single play in a football game, and it looks at both sides of the football, and basically it assigns a value over average. So it's defense adjusted value over average is what DVOA stands for. And it's adjusted for opponent. So like basically it's a very, very good way. It's not the only way. It's not like the end all be all or whatever, but it's a very good way of kind of measuring the strength of teams. I think that's the easiest way of putting it.
Right. That's the best way to
put
it.
It's better than your record, because like the Patriots are a perfect example.
Right.
The Patriots in the season won 14 games, I think it was, and they were like 17th in DVOA, and it was all due to the fact that they played a very easy schedule. So it's a good way of looking at how efficient and how strong a team is relative to, who they played and all that stuff, and relative to history, relative to what teams have done throughout history. I think they go back to the 80s. The DVOA stat goes back to either the early 90s or late 80s. And so, according to that metric, these are both the Rams and Seahawks are two of the top 10 teams ever, according to that metric.
And the guy
since the 80s, yeah.
And the guy who created Aaron Schatz, right?
Yep.
Who's the creator of DVOA, had tweeted out, that's getting a lot of play everywhere, that this Sunday's game is essentially the best NFL matchup in the last 47 years.
A great hook.
What
a great hook.
And it's by a lot.
Yeah.
Like this matchup is like the best matchup between two teams in the last 50 years of the NFL.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's why, it should be talked about more. Yeah, I mean, the Super Bowl, whoever wins this is going to be a letdown for people.
I know,
because whoever comes out of it is going to destroy the AFC.
I would think so. Yeah, I would agree.
And I just think that this is the game, and that this is why so much is on the line. And I don't know, we're going to debate it till we run out of things to say all week long. I'm just glad they've got home field advantage. I'm glad that they easily beat the 49ers because they're rested. For the most part, they're healthy.
Right.
Meanwhile, the Rams have had to go down to the wire in both games. They got to be exhausted right now, yes. Danny.
Yeah, they had to play in that cold game. It was an overtime game. They had to play an extra quarter, essentially. They played a day later. So there's just a lot of things that work in the Seahawks' favor in this in terms of just rest and recuperation. The one last thing I will say on the DVOA thing that I think is really fascinating is, we've mythologized at this point the Legion of Boom, the Seahawks defense. Mm-hmm. And if you go back to that era, I want to say the Seahawks were number one in DVOA from 2013 all the way through 2015 or 2016. So there was like a thing back in the day in the blogosphere. I was running field goals at the time. It was basically like the back-to-back DVOA champs. Like the Seahawks were such a good team. This Seahawks team is better than any of those teams. Their defense is better, according to DVOA, than the freaking Legion of Boom defenses.
What are your eyes telling you?
I would still take the Legion of Boom.
Yeah.
But I think my point is, the context of that tells you that you can believe your eyes. This is a very, very good defense. The Seahawks have built.
Do you think we realize? I was thinking this after the game. I was at the stadium and I walked out, and I understand how many injuries the Niners had, and that's part of what happened. But I was thinking, boy, a couple weeks ago, that team was flying high, and they had all the injuries still.
Yeah.
I guess minus Kittle. They still were dealing with all the injuries. And they were the hottest offense in football, one of the hottest teams in football.
Yep.
And 2 straight weeks, you dominated them. The first meeting, just the score didn't indicate it, but you dominated.
It's not even a strong enough word, honestly.
Yeah. And then this past week, you obliterated them.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, I guess I don't even realize how good they are this year. Like, I don't think I've given them enough credit how good they are.
Right.
Go start, you look at their losses they've had this year, which have been by what? 3 to Tampa Bay, 2 to LA, and what was the other one?
It was 3 to Tampa Bay, 2 to LA,
San Francisco, right?
And then 4 in week 1. And they went down and they had a chance to win that game on the last play.
look at some of these victories they've had where they've just bludgeoned teams. You just don't see that in the NFL. A 31-17 victory on the road to Pittsburgh playoff team, a 38-14 win on the road to Washington, a 44-22 win over Arizona at home, a 26-0 shutout against Minnesota, a 37-9 victory at Atlanta, a 27-10 comfortable victory, 17 points on the road against Carolina. I mean, they've just not beat teams. They've beaten them into the ground. Exactly.
That's what the DVOA, takes into account. I think, and that's one note I would say on DVOA is like, if you blow a team out, that will really pump up your DVOA, because it's hard to blow out teams in the NFL. These other teams are paid to win, and there's a lot of really highly paid players on every team, and they're very, very good teams. That's why it's so hard to be consistently good in the NFL. The league pushes you down to 500. Now, obviously, you can't really be 500, but it's just really, really hard to blow out a team in the NFL. So when you look at some of the absolutely freaking dominant wins the Seahawks have had this year, it tells you this is it's a good illustration of the quality that this team is. So yeah, I mean, you look through all these losses that they had, like you said, and this team was close to being undefeated, like truly. So, not that, some of these other games could have gone the other way too, like about the ball bounce is funny, or when you miss a kick here or there, or whatever. Obviously that's like why it's so hard to go undefeated, but like the Seahawks were as close as you can get, what felt like, to having a near perfect season. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think this is one of those situations where the expression my co-host always uses, you're inside the bottle, so you can't see the label. Like this Seahawks team will be remembered as one of the best ever in this franchise history.
Does it matter what happens Sunday? Change your opinion either way of how you feel about this team?
Well, yeah, a little bit, because if they win, they go to the freaking Super Bowl. If they don't win, then it'll be another good year that didn't quite make it. It's a orders of magnitude difference if you go to the Super Bowl, because we've only been to 3. This would be the 4th Super Bowl, right, that they've been to. And so, yeah, I mean, making it to the Super Bowl is a whole different ballgame. So I would say this. I said this before the playoffs, so it's not just like recency bias. I really wanted them to get to the championship game. I thought if they didn't get to the championship game, it would be a big disappointment. Sure. They're there. And now, hopefully, they can do it. If they don't win, I still think it's a really successful season. And obviously, you can feel great about it. You can feel great about the future of this franchise. But yeah, I mean, if they go to the Super Bowl, orders of magnitude difference in terms of how we'll look at the season.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I would assume everyone would agree it's still a successful season.
Yes, I think that there's some people,
but everyone has the right to change how they feel now. I get it. It's okay if you're like, I don't know if I can call it, but it has to be. I mean, I don't think there was anyone that thought they were going to be here in this position. I mean, if you did,
I certainly did not.
Great for you, but. And I think also what's interesting about this week is I think both fan bases can turn and twist their head and be like, well, we should have won both games.
Yep.
Because I've seen the Rams, I've seen fans of the Rams and media of the Rams do the same thing. And I agree with them. I mean, you look at the last game that they lost, they should have won that game.
Right.
I mean, they had a 16-point lead? You have a 16-point lead, you should win the game.
I mean, the Seahawks, that game was crazy, man.
It was a great game.
Take away the 2-point conversion that everyone was like hung up on. Like the Seahawks converted 2 other 2-point conversions.
Right.
And like basically had to have 6 or 7 plays go right exactly their way for that game to end up being a W. So yeah, pretty crazy game. I actually, this is funny because it reminds me, the last time the Seahawks were in the NFC Championship game was that crazy ass game against the Packers. I saw, Pardon My Take, but another podcast that is on Netflix now. So our Netflix buddies, they reheated a interview with Aaron Rodgers. I believe it was when he was still with the Packers. He had long hair at the time. I don't remember exactly when it was, but Rodgers was talking about what game kind of sticks in his craw, like the worst memory he'll have of any game in the NFL, like the one he wants back. And he talks about the NFC Championship game when the Seahawks hit them in overtime in that game to go to the Super Bowl. And how it just like they needed one of like 8 plays to go their way. And it was like 0 for 8. Whether you go to the crazy Russell Wilson 2-point conversion, which was reminiscent of what Caleb Williams did on Saturday or on Sunday.
Yeah.
The onside kick, the touchdown to Curse, the Marshawn Lynch touchdown. There's just so many plays where if the Packers had just done their job one time of any of those 8 plays, it would have been Packers would have gone to the Super Bowl. And who knows, maybe they would have won because they'd beaten the Patriots earlier that season. Then there was that the John Ryan touchdown game too?
Yeah, that's what sparked it.
So many freaking crazy.
Who caught it?
Oh God, it was an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Gary Gilliam.
Oh my God. I don't think I could have guessed that in a million tries.
Gary freaking Gilliam.
Gary Gilliam. How do I not remember that? I definitely remember John Ryan celebrating such a great.
What's going to be hard for the Seattle sports fan is that we were just in this position a couple of months ago.
Totally.
And you are an inning or two away from an organization getting now to their first World Series. You are now 4 quarters away. Now, you've been there before and you've won one, so it's different. But you're 4 quarters away from getting back to the Super Bowl, and in which, again, we just established this. This will be the easiest one of them all if they get there. The easiest
Super
one,
Bowl, you mean?
especially if somehow, some way, Jarrett Stidham can pull off.
I think there's a chance. I think Denver can win, man.
I mean, think about facing Jarrett Stidham in the Super Bowl. I mean, it just
imagine facing the Broncos again, and if the Seahawks.
These opportunities, because you don't know what next year is. I don't know what next year.
You don't know what next year will bring,
because everyone will say, "Oh, they're young, and McDonald's young, and they'll return all these guys." Yeah, but you don't know. I mean, Ken Walker could leave. I don't know all the free agents off the top of my head, but
there's a handful of important ones.
Kobe Bryant. I mean, there's a Mafe. There's a bunch of guys that could not be on this team next year. Okay, and now Charbonnet is going to be basically done for the whole year. Does Cup come back? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he's done if they win it, or whatever happens. Maybe
also,
this is his last.
You absolutely cannot rely on the absolute heater that John Schneider is on right now as a drafter either.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like at some point, again, this happens to every GM. He's going to have 0 hits out of a class.
And you are a significant, I don't know, training camp injury away.
Totally.
From changing everything. So you can't just go, well, they're here to stay. Yeah, well, okay. Right. I mean, they look like they're here to stay, but this opportunity for them right now is so perfect.
May God.
To capture it.
Of course, they're playing the Rams.
You had to be done. It had to be the Rams.
It had to be.
And here's the thing, too. I think is a slight misnomer. I think. There's going to be a lot of talk this week about how does Sean McVay have Mike McDonald's number? And it certainly he has the cheat code to McDonald's defense. And I'm like, does he? Does he really? I think we just think of the last game, and we think every game has been just like the last game that they faced.
Right.
And of course, that last game was unbelievable, right? They gave up 37 points. They had 581 total yards. Stafford nearly threw for 457 and 3 TDs. Puka Nakua's catching everything. He's got 12 catches for 225 yards. Now, if you go back, there were some injuries late in that game, too, to their secondary guys left. But the Rams were putting these numbers up even in the first half. And you'd say, well, and they didn't have Davante Adams. You go back, okay, that was a bad one. Go back to the first meeting. First meeting, his defense.
They stifled him.
Killed him. It was 249 total yards that Mike McDonald's defense held Matt Stafford, and to 21 points. Now, they lost the game, but wasn't because of his defense. Matt Stafford threw for 130 yards. He averaged 4.6 yards a pass in that game. Yeah. And Puka played, and so did Davante Adams played in that game. So you can't go, well, look what they did last time, and Davante Adams didn't play. Well, Davante Adams played in the first game, and they shut him down. If you go back to last year, when they played, obviously, twice, I think we can throw the last game out. That's what Garoppolo played. They didn't have any starters.
Right.
I don't know what the Seahawks are doing starter-wise, but they don't have the same personnel out there. But you go back to the first game of last year, and I'm throwing out the second game just because it was kind of a throwaway game for both. But in the first game, it wasn't. The Rams won in overtime, but they scored 26. You tell me, would you take 20 points in regulation this Sunday?
Easily.
Yeah.
If the Seahawks hold them to 20, they're winning.
Yeah, and they had 366 yards in that game.
Yeah.
Puka Nacua had one catch for 11 yards. You know who the big receiver was last year in the first game?
Tutu Atwell? I don't know.
Cooper Kupp. Got 11 grabs for $104.
Of course he did.
So again, I think you can look at these games and go, so I don't know. I just think it's misguided to say that Sean McVay has his number.
Oh, I would agree with that. I think and it's deeper than Sean McVay has his, like Matthew Stafford might be the MVP this year. You know what I mean? Like he's pretty freaking good.
He's not bad.
And he's been doing this for a very long time. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's one of the best. I think he's one of the best all time, like flat out. Yeah. I think there's going to be narrative stuff with him and everything, which is fine. But like, if I'm starting a team and I need one drive, like Stafford is up there for me.
Yeah.
So, respect to Stafford too. Obviously pairing him with McVay is what terrifies me so much about the Rams. But yeah, like, it's not just McVay having Mike McDonald's number. It's Stafford is a very, very good quarterback who has been doing this for a very long time. One of the toughest quarterbacks ever. And so, yeah, there's just a lot there. I think, what kind of game do you think this is going to be? When you picture in your mind, I kind of feel like it's going to be a high scoring game.
I don't think it's going to be where it was the 38-37.
Not
I don't
to
think
that point, not 500 yards for the Rams and everything.
And I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's in that 27-24 range.
Yeah, I could see that.
Something right around in there. And I think is it a last minute drive? Is it I just think it's going to go down to the wire.
It's going to come down to the last drive. Of course it is. You know it is.
There's
no chance it won't.
I don't see how one of the teams is going to win comfortably.
No. I totally agree.
I don't see it going down that way at all. And I just want one thing. Can they just win the turnover battle? Because that's the thing that's been scary in the two games this year. It's 7-1.
Yeah.
Seattle's committed 7 turnovers compared to 1.
That's
and
the
they
thing
split.
That makes me think the Seahawks are a far superior team, and they probably should win this game. Is that number exactly? The first game, Darnold threw 4 picks or whatever it was, and they almost won that game anyway.
Yep.
And obviously, I think it was
3 more turnovers,
but not all on Darnold on that game.
There was. Did he have? I think he had 2 picks, and then there was a fumble. I don't know who fumbled it. I'm blanking on.
Regardless, yeah, like the 7-1 thing is glaring. That's like atrocious. And so, yeah, if the Seahawks can play relatively clean football, I think they should win this game.
And I want someone to smack Puka Nakua's head into the ground. And I'm willing to take a 15-yard penalty.
Okay.
I'm willing for Eamon Wari because, they can't kick him out. It's the NFL. I don't know if you watched the title game last night. I'm sure you did.
Yeah. The college football, yeah.
When the Miami guy hit Mendoza under the chin.
Yeah, right in the chin.
I want Eamon Wari to do that to Nacua because he's not going to get kicked out.
Right.
There's no missing the next half of football. So just take him out. I'd want someone. I freaking despise that guy.
You're never going. I'm going to be clear. I never root for injuries, but if an injury happened, maybe it will be
prime. He's the prime candidate. I want him to.
Funny how with good reason, but it is funny how Puka has become the villain so quickly.
He went from likable to now everyone hates him.
Which I understand. Again, believe me, I get it, but it happened very quickly.
Well, how do you think it's going to shake out? What kind of game do you think? You think it's high scoring?
Yeah, I think it'll be a back and forth game. I agree with you. I think it's going to come down to the final drive, who has the ball last, or who can make the last stop. Essentially, that all those cliches. It's going to be a nail biter. It's going to be heart wrenching.
You're watching it in a fetal position.
Yeah. Before the playoffs started, I picked the Rams to go to the Super Bowl. But I have a good feeling about the Seahawks in this game. I just think they're playing.
Playing great.
They're playing. They are peaking at the right time. Like very, very importantly.
And you know who I wanted for? We just watched last night one of the great stories in sports, right? To see an Indiana team that was earlier this year
That's an all-time season.
Team with the most losses in the history of the sport.
Like legitimately the worst team in college.
Worst football program ever.
Can you imagine? And they went undefeated.
I can imagine. I root for it. Look at that. I root for that team right there. Where is it at? Hold on. We're right there. That team. And that one.
I see it. Yeah.
Hold on, right there. I can imagine. I've let myself imagine.
There's an expression, cooging it, for crying out loud.
All right, Danny, I didn't think we would leave early, but we can just cut this show off now.
Sorry. Continue. Yeah.
Sam Darnold. I know it's a team sport. I want to see him win it.
I would love that.
Because Absolutely. It's just, here's a guy that he was just highly recruited. He's highly drafted. He's thrown to the wolves. He's left for dead. He's terrible. He's a bust. He's all that. And, I was talking to my kid about him the other day. We were just talking about why we like him so much. Because he's always even. Yeah. Even keel. Yeah. Never up, never down. You can't tell that he had a bad game or even that he had a good game.
Right.
And he just has this mentality about him. All right, fine. I throw 4 picks. But you know what? Even go back to that game when he threw 4 picks. He takes him right down the field, puts him in a position to win the game.
Yep.
And Myers misses the field goal. And it's a long field goal. But you go back and watch that final drive. Go look at the throws he makes. I mean, he's just like, F it. We're going.
This is one of his biggest strengths. And one of his it's a double-edged sword, of course, but one of his biggest strengths. I would acknowledge this. I think I said this maybe on your show or on our show. I can't remember what it was. But I will say, as much as I've kind of been a Darnold hater a little bit this year because of the turnovers, it's just been frustrating. I will say I have very high level of confidence in him putting together a game-winning drive.
Okay.
The fact that he can make some of these throws, I believe in him. I think he's got that. He has the arm talent, and just the short memory. Basically, This is what I was going to get to. Is one of his strongest traits and one of his double-edged sword or whatever is that he has a short memory, and he just will keep pushing the ball down the field, and he can make some incredible throws. So, for as much as I've kind of, I don't know if hating is maybe too strong a word, but I've been a little bit of a Darnold hater. He is incredible. When all the chips are down and you need a big play, he has shown time and time, and he can do it. So I have a huge amount of respect for him in those situations. And I think that's a huge X factor that the Seahawks have now that they really haven't had a ton with recent quarterbacks. Early career Russell Wilson, I believe, could do anything, but as the time went on, that became less apparent. Geno Smith was good, but I think he was more prone to melting down. And I just think Darnold, the fact that he has that late game magic and just the overall arm talent to make some of those incredible throws, that gives the Seahawks a pretty big X factor. So yeah, hopefully it doesn't come down to that, but I could see it coming down to that last drive.
Oh, it's going to.
It's gonna.
It's written. It's already pre-written. The script is already.
We can't avoid it. This is Final Destination.
Can't avoid it. All right, you enjoy it. We'll be watching you all week. Danny Kelly, the rest of the Ringer crew, Netflix. Listen on Spotify.
You can watch on Spotify if you don't have Netflix as well.
Okay,
for free.
And when do the shows come out again?
So we are on a Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday schedule right now.
Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday. Catch Danny and the crew, Ringer Fantasy Football Show, Ringer NFL Draft Show. They cover all things NFL. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate it. We'll see you next week. Get ready for the Super Bowl.
Let's do this.
All right, there he is, Danny Kelly.
Drink Georgetown Tavern Beer, your new locally brewed domestic-style lager. 4.2% alcohol. Cheap, good, local.
Big thanks again to Danny Kelly for joining us. A big thanks to Georgetown Brewery for sponsoring all of our NFL coverage. In case you missed any of that, that will be podcast up later. under the Daily Puck Drop on YouTube and all podcast platforms, Apple and Spotify. Also, we will put up the individual show with Danny up there exclusively on YouTube as well. All right, we'll go back to college football. What an incredible night. Last night it was in Miami. The Indiana Hoosiers winning their first ever national championship over the Miami Hurricanes. And the most famous IU alum I know is Mike Gastineau, the Gasman. We caught up with Gas earlier this morning and getting his thoughts, his reactions to his beloved Hoosiers winning the national title. Next guest, here he is. He's a happy camper, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Gas Man. Now, you may know him from radio. I know him from Graz with Gas Take 5, which is just burning up the podcast charts.
It's Ecuador's most popular sports podcast. I don't know if you know that or not, but it's true.
Big in Ecuador. Well, man, there's so many people would love to be in your shoes, Gas. Yeah. How was it? How was it to watch your alma mater win its first national title in person?
It's been incredible. I've said almost really over the last 2 years, particularly the last 6 or 7 weeks, every day for an Indiana fan has been like you're 7 years old and it's Christmas Day. Every single day. And you're running downstairs to see what you got. And it's just amazing. The thing, I've been thinking about a lot of things about this, but the fact that it wasn't a fluke. I mean, you could say the Penn State game, they had a pretty miracle play to win that game, but they still go to the playoffs even if they lose that. And they played a great team last night, man. I'm glad that game is over. I'm glad there wasn't a fifth quarter because Miami reminded me of Jason in the old Friday the 13th movies. I mean, you just couldn't stop them last night. It's been amazing. I mean, it's certainly for me, the only thing that compares in the Seattle days is the 95 Mariners as far as a story that was out of the blue. There's a lot of great stories. I mean, we saw the Seahawks win a Super Bowl. We've seen a lot of cool stuff up in our neck of the woods. But this one, 2 years ago, a year ago, nobody thought this was going to happen. It felt like Cignetti had gotten them on track, but you don't think, they're going to win all 16 games next year and win the national title. So it's just so out of the blue. And in that way, it reminds me a lot of the Mariners from 95. It was like, all of a sudden, one day we look up and the Mariners are playing for the American League Championship. It was so surprising. So it's pretty amazing.
But for people who don't know, I mean, when you were growing up, when you went to school there, Indiana football was what?
My sophomore year, I think, Indiana won the Holiday Bowl, which was our first bowl win in school history. Corso was the coach. We were okay. We weren't great, but we weren't horrible. But I mean, it was like, you'd compete against the mid-range Big Ten teams, and then you just get destroyed by Ohio State and Michigan and sometimes Iowa or Wisconsin. But it's never been very good, until the third week of November this past year. We had lost more games than any team in college football history. The losingest team in history, and now we're the national champs. I mean, it's I like to joke with Bill. One of my favorite stats was in 1994, the Big Ten was still 10 teams, and Indiana ranked 11th in wins. And you think, well, how can that be? Chicago, which quit playing football in 1949 and left the Big Ten, we still hadn't caught them. 45 years later, we still did not have enough wins to catch them. So it's never been great. We've had little patches of good here and there, but it's the fact that it's so out of the blue is what makes it a great story. It's just there's no cynicism yet. I'm sure that's coming someday, but for the most part, fans walk around with these goofy grins on our faces and looking at each other. You're high-fiving and fist bumping strangers all day long. It's just remarkable.
It's because when they defeated now it's been a while for them, but one of the, you could call Miami a blue blood of national, of college football, right? And you took down one of them, but you took down others along the way, right? Indiana's not supposed to be there. They're not one of the premier Big Ten teams, and certainly not an SEC team. And then there's been different factors why they've been able to get it done. And certainly money's a factor into it. And of course, because it's NIL and the contributions from Cuban and you and others, right?
Yeah.
You guys are really on the same level. But I think it comes down to is you found a coach who at every level won.
Yeah,
every
right.
single level won. This was not a fluke. I mean, everywhere he went, he won. And I just look around and look at that roster, and it's been noted how many, 5 stars they didn't have. They have guys that just want to play football. They have reminds me of Chuck Knox. They have football players, and you can see that when they play, how hard they go out every single game.
Yeah, and I think they bought into his philosophy, and I like to describe him as he reminds me so much of Bob Knight without the big streak of asshole. Knight just couldn't help himself. He always had to Cignetti doesn't create drama around himself. They talk about, I bet he yelled at him in the locker room. The players say he hardly ever yells. I'll tell you, as a coach, he reminds me a lot, and there's a direct connection here of Don James. I remember Don telling me, Gasman, if you're yelling at your team at halftime, you've lost the game. You might as well just admit you've lost the games. You weren't ready. Don, pretty famously, talked a young guy, a player that had played for him named Nick Saban, talked him out of going back to West Virginia and joining his dad's automobile empire. Nick had studied business in college at Kent State, was going to go become a car dealer and a car dealer owner. And that's how he was like, I'm going to be great at this. I know what I'm doing. And Don said, I think you should be a graduate assistant for a year and see if you like it. So Nick will tell you that he got a lot of things from Don James. It's been many years, but he talked when he did the foreword for my Husky book. He talked about talking to Don James the Monday of the week he died on the phone. And Don says, so what are you doing, coach? And Nick goes, well, it's Monday. You know what we're doing. And he ran down the practice schedule, and it was exactly what Don had done 30 years earlier at Kent State. I mean, Nick has a recruiting system that Cignetti says he uses. I'm telling you, that came from Don. So Cignetti reminds me a lot of DJ, just in his comportment, in the fact that he's a complete football nerd. I mean, that's what he lives for. That's what he does. And I'm sure he has his moments. He kind of joked about how having his coordinators with him for 10 years helps, because he goes, they know how to handle me when I get in my little moods. But I think for the most part, he's pretty even keel. And I think that's why he's had success. And he's always thinking about the next play. What comes next? You're willing to worry about what just happened. Let's worry about what happens next.
What was the moment like? I mean, on TV, it's going to go down as probably one of the most incredible plays in the history of the national championship, right? I likened it to Vince Young's run in the Rose Bowl when they took out USC, but Vince Young didn't have to run over 3 different guys to get into the end zone. It's just an iconic play, and it's an iconic call by Keith Jackson. But the Mendoza run is just going to go down in football lore, and I just want to know, from you're sitting inside that stadium watching it happen in real time, just the emotions and the reaction to it when he finally got into the end zone.
It's right below us. We were on the 10-yard line in the 5th row of the 300 level. So, I mean, it is right below where we're sitting. Renee, and on the replays, it looks like there's like a shadow or some kind of weird thing. It looks like he fumbles. There's a brief second where, oh, God, did he fumble? But I didn't expect it to be that dramatic. But he's such a big kid, and he doesn't mind throwing his body into the fray. Maybe it was against Oregon, where he had run like 20 yards downfield. He wouldn't slide. And then he did fumble that one. Thankfully, we're good. It was like, slide, man, slide, Charlie Brown, slide. And he likes playing football. So, but watching it and then just having the view of that surge, that dive into the end zone. And I didn't think about it then, but afterwards, when you start thinking, that guy's probably the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. And he's not thinking about that. He's like, I got to win right now. So it was, and I agree with you. I mean, I think he's a unicorn. I mean, come on. How do you find this guy? He's from the perfect family, and they love each other, and he's a great teammate. I remember when they got him last year, and I'm like, yeah, he's a pretty good quarterback. I wasn't expecting this, man.
He's kind of a goofball. He does all the interviews. He's like Saban. He stares into the camera when he does the interview. He's just kind of, you don't know if he's real or not, but he's a hell of a competitor. Well, what does this do for Indiana? What does it do for the fans? Like, how much does it allow you to puff your chests out more? I mean, how do you think it changes the direction of of not only just the football, but just the fandom and the program itself.
Well, I mean, they've gotten, the university has gotten more publicity in the last 2 years and the last 6 weeks than in 50 years prior, so in terms of admissions, in terms of interest, I found myself thinking last night, you're talking about something I never would have thought, this will create Indiana fans from people who never went there or are never going to go there. There'll be kids who watch that and go, I became an Indiana fan when I watched that team and they kept beating teams and people said they can't do it. So, I think all of that, the university has been pretty healthy over the years. I don't know that it's going to impact that way, but it's, I'll be interested to see one of my brothers is like, what are people going to do next year if we only win 9 games and end up in the Gator Bowl? And I said, well, I'm going to Jacksonville. I don't know about you. But there will be a regression coming, you would think, although please don't tell Curt Cignetti I said that or he'll excommunicate me. But I think they're set up to be good for a while now. And hopefully some of the enthusiasm can be maintained while the inevitable cynicism starts creeping in over the next year and people can recognize what's happened.
Well, enjoy it. And there's a lot of people, a lot of fan bases, being a fan base of the school that I cheer for, you're very envious because I think it gives a lot of people who have been on the outside looking in hope that they could be Indiana and be that fan base one day. Incredible ride. I know how much it means to you. Just what a blast to watch that and to follow it and just a hell of a season. And good on you. Congratulations. I love when people congratulate you on games like this.
Congratulations on the win.
Like, what did you do for the game?
It's like have a safe flight. I'm back here in row 50. I got no control over whether this flight is safe. One last quick thing was we were able to get tickets for all these games. I just find this to be a very sweet part of the story because again, it speaks to your love of Washington State. It speaks to any love anybody has for a team when you stick with them. My brother Mark graduated from Indiana in 1973. He joined the Varsity Club, which is a booster organization. He's been giving him money every year since then. He's had football season tickets every year since then. He's gone to the games, not every game, but most games. And through thick and thin, he stayed with them. And that's why we were able to get access to these tickets without having to buy on the secondary market. And I love my brother, obviously, but I think it's a cool part of the story is, many years he could have said, and it's only an hour drive to the stadium and all that, but still you're going down there 5 or 6 Saturdays a year watching you get your teeth kicked in. And he just stayed with it. And so no, I love him. I'm going to stay with him. And I was really happy for him. He went to all the games. I skipped the Peach Bowl just for bandwidth and financial reasons, but he went to all of them. And I'm really happy for him. He's been through a lot with them and has, he said he laughed. He goes, I'm sure there'll be an email today asking me for more money. I bet there will.
Oh, yeah, you damn right they will. Yeah. Thank you, Gas. Appreciate it.
Mr. Puckett, it's always great to be called into the boss's office. And Mr. Grosby and I will have a brand new Take 5 on your desk tomorrow at noon.
I will end on that one. Excellence in dining? Visit John Howie's Steak and experience premier Northwest dining. Prime custom aged steaks, award-winning wine, unmatched level of service. You won't be disappointed. Make your next reservation today at johnhowiesteak.com. Big thanks again to the Gasman for jumping on early this morning from Miami to reflect back on Indiana winning the national title yesterday. Speaking, you're going to get more Gasman, as he mentioned there at the end. He and Graz did not do his show on Monday. Graz and Gas Take 5. It will come out tomorrow. Of course, we produce the Graz with Gas Take 5 podcast. You can check it out on YouTube and all podcast platforms. But what a cool night there for Gas and all of the Indiana alums capturing their first national title. All right, we've got Hey What the Puck coming up shortly to wrap up the show. Before that, we'll get to On This Day. I don't know if I mentioned it. We were doing the Indiana, then we did the Charbonnet story, and then we were right into Danny Keel. I'm not sure we went back to Felix Hernandez and the Hall of Fame voting today, but coming out later today, 3 o'clock, by the way, MLB Network, the Hall of Fame will announce their inductees into their class for this year. Now, Felix Hernandez is not going to get in this year, but this is a great sign for all of us who believe Felix deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. As of now, And you can follow it. He's not on Twitter anymore. He's on Blue Sky. But you remember, not Mr. Tibbs, Ryan Thibodeau, who would track all of the voting for the Hall of Fame voters. And Felix right now is trending at 55.5%. And that's about a little over half of the votes are in. Half of the ballots are in. Now, he would need to be on like 97% of the remaining ballots to reach the 75% threshold, which, again, he's not going to. But this is a massive storyline and a massive, huge gain for Felix Hernandez from last year to this year. Last year, he got 20%. So as of now, he's been holding steady at 55 to 57%. That's a great jump. And Ryan, again, not Mr. Tibbs, who has been covering this, has it even broken down among first-time voters. And we've mentioned this before in detailing this story about Felix. First-time voters are trending heavily on Felix, like 77 to 78%. So as they're getting younger, getting new voters in, guys like Felix who don't have the traditional numbers, but you look at his period of time, you weigh in all the other analytics around baseball, which is being more heavily used and analyzed and debated now. Felix has got a great chance. Maybe it doesn't happen next year, but the year after that. We'll see, but it's a great sign there for Felix Hernandez. Also, a reminder, another edition of the Sports Pit coming out later today. Myself and Matt Stretch Johnson, of course, we'll talk about the Indiana win. A lot of Seahawks, maybe a little Felix coming out a little bit later today, later this afternoon. If you're not a Pucks Posse member, you can sign up today by simply going to pucksports.com. On this day, January 20th, and on this day brought to you by one of our brand new sponsors. Happy they're on board. Great spot. Our great social media app, Hive Social, HYV Social. They're on the iOS store and Google Play. Hive Social is the official Puck Sports Meetup social app. You can download it today. You can get in the game with Hive Social. Again, the official social meetup app there for Puck Sports. You can download the Hive Social app on iOS or Google Play. It's free, by the way. And again, that's HYV Social. You can invite your friends, fellow Seahawks fans, to join the Pucks Posse on Hive Social today. And a reminder, great way to find out and find where everyone's going to be this weekend. On Sunday, it's like Snapchat plus LinkedIn for adults, okay? That's what it is. It's for adults. There are no commercials, no ads on there, no algorithms. Nothing's going to bog you down. You can pay if you want a premium service, but you don't have to. It is free. It's a way to log on, find where everyone's going to be at this weekend on Sunday to find out where the best spot is to watch the game or hang out before the game or hang out after the game. Again, that's Hive Social, HYV Social, and get it in the iOS and Google Play store today. And they are going to bring you, as they do every single day, on this day. On this day, January 20th, 1976, speaking of the Seahawks, Lloyd Nordstrom, the original owner of the Seattle Seahawks and founder of the Seahawks, he passed away suddenly from a heart attack. His death, this is unfortunate for Lloyd Nordstrom. His death occurred just months before the team played its inaugural game. Of course, the Nordstroms, they are the Kennedys of the Northwest, right? Their royalty in the Northwest, would own the team for years until they ended up, and they admit, making mistakes, selling it to Ken Behring. And then when Ken Behring ended up selling to Paul Allen, Nordstrom's had nothing to do with the Behring ownership. But then when Allen bought it, Nordstrom's would come back, and boy, they used to be around the facility all the time, and just the nicest family ever. 1968, on this day, January 20th, the Houston Cougars take out the UCLA Bruins in 1968, 71-69. That snapped UCLA's winning streak, which at that time was 47 straight on this day in 1968. Sports and politics mix on this day, January 20th, 1980. U.S. President Jimmy Carter announces the U.S. boycott of the 1980 Summer Olympics in Moscow. after the Soviet Union invasion of Afghanistan. Entertainment news on this day, 2008, one of the best television series. It took a little bit for it to get going, but once it got going, it was incredible television and probably one of the best television series in the history of TV. Breaking Bad makes its premiere on AMC, and one of the best musicals of all time, 2015, Hamilton premieres at the Public Theater in Lower Manhattan. Happy birthday on this day, January 20th. Nick Foles, born in 1989. He's 37 today, led the Eagles to the Super Bowl, where he was the MVP, and that went over the Patriots. Seattle native and noted Seahawks fan Rainn Wilson, who starred in The Office, is 60 today. He attended Shorecrest High School. Before graduating, he attended UW, where he got a degree in drama. Comedian Bill Maher is celebrating his 70th birthday today. Of course, has his show on HBO. And war hero, icon, astronaut, a man's man, Buzz Aldrin, celebrating his 96th birthday today. He graduated third in his class at West Point. He was a jet fighter pilot in the Korean War. His first space flight was 1966, Gemini 12. 3 years later, he set foot on the moon. 19 minutes after the first man to set foot on the moon, Neil Armstrong. On this day, January 20th, all brought to you by Hive Social, the official social meetup app for Puck Sports. Download it, the social map or app from the iOS store or Google Play. It is free. Hey, What the Puck is brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. It's your restoration company that's going to let you avoid the stress of water, fire, mold damage with their property restoration services. Visit them online at restoration1.com, North Seattle franchise. Well, the Indiana story is incredible, as we all know. It's the story of why we love sports. It's the underdog story. It's the anti-establishment story. It's the counterculture movement. It's the overlooked winning a title and coming on out on top over the big bad favorites. There can be a lot of wrong in sports, and there generally is a lot of wrong in sports, but there also can be a lot of good in sports. And Indiana is what's right about sports. Their players were undervalued. It took a coach who had taken a long, winding road to Indiana to find and unearth the talent at Indiana. Individually, they aren't the best team that you've ever seen. It's not 2001 Miami. However, collectively, they are the best team, and that's what team sports is all about. The sacrifice of oneself to certainly better the team. Indiana is a lesson for all in sports. Hell of a story. Hell of a season there for the Hoosiers. Hey, What the Puck, again, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Reach out to them if you got any damages to your residential or commercial property. Restoration1.com, North Seattle franchise. Big thanks to everybody watching and listening to today's show. Thank you to all our sponsors, as always, Limback Lumber, Flat Stick Pub, John Howie Steak, Georgetown Brewery, and Restoration One, and Hive Social, downloaded today, iOS and Google Play. You can find today's Daily Punch Up on YouTube. When you're there, please subscribe to the channel. Also find the Daily Punch Up on your favorite podcast platforms. Apple and Spotify are the two best. When you're there, please rate the show, leave a review. Also on YouTube, you can hit that like button and leave a comment. We try to get to as many as we can. Also, you can go to pucksports.com. There you can sign up to become a Puck Spotsy member. Your membership supports all the free content that we do every single day, Monday through Friday. Plus, we give you bonus shows throughout the week, like the brand new Sports Pit edition with Matt Stretch Johnson coming out later today. Inside Pitch with Ryan Divish on Wednesdays, and KJ Arntz with Mitch Levy on Thursday. We also produced the Graz with Gas Take 5 podcast, available on YouTube and all podcast platforms. Usually comes out every Monday, but because of the national title with Gas traveling, a new episode will be coming out Wednesday. All right, be on the lookout for the Sports Pit coming out later today with Stretch. Also, Wednesday's show, Jim Moore is back. Rob Staten, SeahawksDraftBlog.com is here to talk Seahawks and Rams, and another edition of Inside Pitch with Ryan Divish. We'll see you tomorrow. As always, promise to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah. I went from one to the I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you. But you were born to rub me first. What do you need my address for? We like to send out a mailer. Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!